have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hello, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you're on the lifeboat. People, we're cooking. You know that? We're good things are happening. The lifeboat is growing. We got a lot of new people that are really, really doing well. It's it is a very, very exciting time to be in the cool seat. You know what I mean? To be sitting where Mark and I are. This is as exciting as it could possibly be when you're running a channel. You know, and we're not stupid. This is not the first wave we've caught, and you know, they come and they go. It's kind of one of those things. If your goal is you've set a number and that's what you're shooting for, and you know you're living for that, or you set an amount of money, you could drive yourself insane, because you know, when these things start happening, you start doing math. And I did that in the beginning, you know, and I'm sure, you know, Mark had a lot more experience in YouTube by the time I got involved, and sort of warned me about some of the things. But now I'm really more interested in the people on the boat. And the cool thing is that the people we're bringing in are engaged, which is far more important to me than whatever the numbers, you know, work out to be. I'll tell you what is exciting, though, people. Right in the beginning, we were hoping to get 100,000 views in the first year. We thought that would be a pretty good benchmark, especially because of what we do and how we do it. It's a little bit different, but we're definitely going to be hitting that. We're at about 90,000 right now. It's not what it'll show, you know, up there, because it's always about 3 or 4 days behind, but we're actually at about 90,000. So that's a goal that was important. It really was. But as far as subscribers and things like that, you know, we don't like thinking of all of you as subscribers in the first place. And that's not just one of those cliches that, well, we're really more like family. I mean, every single, you know, guy that runs the YouTube channel says that. And we really feel it. We really do. And, you know, today I was going to talk about goodbye letters to your drug of choice. There was a couple of different letter things that came up that we really intended to lead into. And it's funny how things work, because I'm going to be talking about a letter today, but I don't know that I'm going to get to all of that other stuff. I may or I may not, because we got a letter. Well, we didn't get it, but we heard about it. There was a letter that was written, and I don't remember anything in the lifeboat ever affecting me like this did. This morning, brought my mom to the airport. She was going down to Florida to see her brother, and there they're having a little surprise party down there, which is a very cool thing. But and hopefully they're not watching the lifeboat, or it's no longer a surprise party. But the so I dropped her off at the airport. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, something like that. And I got, if something pops up and one of you leaves a comment, if I'm awake, I look at it, because what we do is different. And, you never know if someone's leaving a comment and they're getting ready to get high or get drunk or, whatever the case may be. And so this one came through, and I went over there and I read it, and it was one of those things that just floored me. And if you've been on the lifeboat for any length of time, you know that I'm not really good at keeping my emotions in check. And this is something that happens to a lot of people in recovery. You know what I mean? You spend so much of your life just burying your emotions and keeping them deep down inside and drugging them away and doing all the things that we do so that we don't have to deal with the reality of what emotion feels like. And then you get sober, and all of that is just right on the surface. And a lot of times it's really, really raw. So if you've been on the lifeboat for any length of time, you've seen me break down on the boat, and I'm not ashamed of it. It is what it is. It's very much a part of me. And this comment this morning, based on a letter, I had to pull the car over. I'm telling you the gospel truth. I had to pull the car over. I had tears in my eyes to the point where I couldn't see the road, and I was losing it. It really just tore me up. And I sent a screenshot of it off to my brother. I sent a screenshot of it to my mom, who was, at that point in the airport. And I sent it to Mark, and I sent it to some other people that are a very big part of my life, who I really love. And I'm not going to mention them because, God forbid these days, if I take the time to mention somebody that I really love, you have any idea what the trolls will do to that person? So, but in every case, the people that I sent it to had something so poignant to say that it made it worse. Like what I should have done was got myself back under control before I sent these off. But I was affected. There's just no other way to say it. And I'm going to read this letter, because not everybody, I'm going to read this comment rather, because not everybody reads every comment. And why would you? You were here in the live chat, and, in the live chat, we get about 6 comments or I can't remember exactly how many it comes out to, but it's ludicrous. So by the very end, there's 1,700, 2,000, 2,500, comments. They're just cooking through. So to go back and then read the comments afterwards, unless you're somebody that writes in the comments section, and I love all of you who do, because it helps the algorithm. But unless you're sort of engaged in the comment section, you're probably not going to come across this stuff. And this is one of those things, people, that you just need to hear. There's no other way around it. Like, this needs to be heard. And once I read it to you, you'll understand. But Mark and I then started to talk about this and some of the feedback that we've been getting recently, and we're hijacking the show. It may not match the it may not match the thumbnail as well as it should have, but that's because things change, and there's some stuff today that just has to be said. But if you're here tonight, this is going to be a show that you'll remember. I promise you that. This is going to be a show that it's going to be one I remember. That's there's no two ways about that. But so let me get here. Jason's new on the boat. And he doesn't feel like he's new on the boat because he's very engaged and everybody knows him already. And he's just a great dude. He really is. He's his interaction with everybody is spot on. And he knows enough to reach out. If he's feeling like he's in a vulnerable place, he reaches out. He tells us where he's at. He's doing everything right. Really, he's just doing everything right. And he has said, since getting here, there's been, no alcohol in his life. He pumped the brakes, and the pumping of the brakes coincides with the first day that he came here. And all credit is due to the boat, right? It's not due to Mark and I, but I'll get to that. But here's the comment that I read this morning when I saw it clip up. It said, he's making a reference to last night's show, and he said, "Great show. Thanks everyone for being there." Sorry, people, I don't have my glasses. My daughter wrote me a letter this morning and put it by the door. And it said, "Thank you, Dad, for laying in bed so that I can fall asleep. And P.S. Your breath doesn't smell like stinky beer." This one just knocked the wind out of me, people. We talk about the circles, right? Throw a pebble in a pond and those circles just keep going out, right? And just last night on the live feed, we talked about how you don't know the effect that your sobriety is going to have on this generation, the next generation, the friends of the next generation. One sober person changes the world. That's not just something cool that we say on the lifeboat. Man, that's a stone cold fact. One sober person changes the world. Every sober person. There is nobody that gets sober that does not change the world. And sometimes that just sounds like one of those things that a guy that runs a sobriety style channel or a live your best life channel, it's the Tony Robbins thing. But how obvious is this one, right? There's an expression, right? From the mouths of babes, comes wisdom. And you talk about wisdom coming from, we tend to think, when we're in the life that, we don't think of others sometimes and how they view us. But to hear a little girl, write this, and he said, I pinned that into my work truck, that letter, and I'm blowing this thing up, people. I swear to God, on all it's holy, I'm taking a picture of this and I'm blowing it up. And I said to Mark this morning, I said, and we don't curse here, people, but there's just no other way. I said, look, the next time I'm really being a douche, just say the letter. You don't even have to explain it. You don't have to say anything else. Because as we said a couple of shows ago, both of us get into modes occasionally where we just, tonight's the day I don't want to do this, man. You do 365 of these things a year together. Some days he's flying high and some days I'm flying high and some days neither of us are flying high and there's nobody to lift the other up. And, but very often it's just one of us. And if I'm, in one of those moods, I promise you for a long damn time, just saying the letter is going to remind me of that, because this letter is just, for a guy that sits in this chair, this is, I have been accused of being the greediest person in the world and doing this for cash and begging you people for money and blah, blah, blah. This is the payday. This is why we do the boat. Right here, this is it. And I can tell you this, and it's not a cliche. It's not BS. It's not just something that I'm saying because it sounds cool. I never in 35 years did anything that got me higher than this comment. Ever. The reward center of my brain flooded my emotional responses, and those feel-good chemicals took over my brain to the point where I couldn't drive. Like I had to pull over and get out of the car and get my you-know-what together before I could get back in and drive home. And walking around the parking lot, I finally went into a casino because it was the closest thing next to me, and just went into the coffee shop and had coffee. And I started chatting online with a couple of people that I love, more than anything. And, at one point, one said, "Hey, are you all right?" And I said, "I'm not, at this moment, I'm not," because it affected me to that point. People, if this doesn't, hammer it home, and if you're still in the life right now, if you're still getting high or getting drunk, and you got a kid in your life who thinks your breath smells like stinky beer, this really, really ought to give you a freaking why, right? I did a show, I don't know how long ago, and it was called Find Your Why. Do you remember that? You got to find your why. And everybody who does this stuff for a living will tell you, "Oh, you got to do it for you. If your motives are for anybody other than yourself." Are you going to tell me that this man is ever going to walk into a store and grab a 12-pack and walk it up to the counter without thinking about that letter? That's a why, people. And sure as hell he's doing it for himself, right? We can play that game and chase it around and it's semantics at that point. But what it comes down to is that sometimes there are things way more important than ourselves to be dedicated to. We just did a show called dedication, right? What are you dedicated to? Because what you dedicate yourself to is what's going to be real in your life. The rest of it is all, fun and games. But what are you going to dedicate yourself to? You think that pinned letter in that work truck isn't going to be the greatest dedication in history? Because I promise you it is. And then as far as the circles go, people, this one should slap you in the face. Normally I have to try to illustrate this. If you don't see just how one sober person has dramatically changed the world, this girl's life changed. This girl's life changed. And one of the people that I love, when I sent this off, the person said, I'm so proud of you. I said, proud of me? Right? No. We're proud of him. That's who we're proud of. And the response was, well, how many little girls do you think have gotten their daddies back because of this show? Which, of course, put me on the side of the road for another 15 minutes. But it also brings up some issues that we really need to talk about. Because, as I said, from Jump Street, the beginning of this show, there are things that have come up recently that we need to talk about. How I said, right now we're flying high. The show is, we've got about 10 new people that are coming in every day. And that's awesome, right? It doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't. For us, that's awesome. And you can get really attached to that. And you can, vest too much of yourself and your thought and all of that into that crap. And we try not to. We really do. But every time we hit a growth spurt like this, something unique happens. We get a whole new group of people. And the whole new group of people haven't watched this show from the very beginning, like the regulars. We got some people here that have been here since July 31st, right, of 21, when we launched this program. And for those people, they heard all of this stuff in the beginning. But for those of you who just got here, we start getting these emails. And first of all, before I come across as just a jerk or come across as somebody that I'm not trying to come across as, we appreciate every single kind thing that is ever said about us more than anything in the world. We love that stuff. We really do. But I don't want it to get out of control in terms of we're not saints by any stretch of the imagination. And Jason, we're proud as hell of Jason. We really are. But we're not the reason Jason's sober. And very often, especially for people who just get here, there's that misconception that, Mark and I go like this, right? And people get sober. And when Jason wants to drink, it's Jason that doesn't pick it up. And when Jason starts feeling crappy and knows that he can make crappy go away with 6 cans of something, we're not the ones that say no to that, right? That's Jason. And the truth of the matter is that when Jason needs support, that support comes from the crew of the lifeboat. So there's a really big difference between Mark Wages, right, or Tommy Scoville and the lifeboat. And that's a distinction that, I'm not being a jerk, you understand, but you really need to understand this distinction. Because if, God forbid, I get hit by a truck tomorrow, this would keep chugging along, because the crew that is assembled here and what they do here every single night of the week is the reason that people are getting sober. It's not because we're here saying, sorry, hold on one second. It's one of those things that we don't want there to be confusion. This isn't about us. It really isn't. And I love the kind things that people say. There's a reason that if you've been here long enough, you ever see the initials in the comment section that say YAL, right? Those initials are, you are lucky, because we know we're lucky that there's 2,200, and I don't know how many because it's going up, but over 250 for sure, right? It's over 2,250. And there's a reason that the people come here, and it's not because of us. Those people come here because of the crew that assembled in the very beginning are the coolest people in the world. And they welcome people and they treat them like family. And you know what? We're lucky as hell that those 2,200 people choose to gather here and let us sit in these seats. And we did a show once called We're Lucky, and we know we're lucky. And the last thing in the world we ever wanted to do was lose sight of that. We don't want people, we don't want to ever have this go to our head, and we don't ever want to start believing the things that people say about us. People, I am a guy that has been to prison 3 times. I'm a guy that has relapsed more than anybody on the planet. And I give advice based on the mistakes that I've made in the past. In the last, I don't know, three or 4 weeks or so, there have been people that have talked about being at the end of their rope, and people that don't know whether or not they can go on. And when I give advice about this, or if Mark gives advice about this, people, I took 3.5 grams of heroin and put it in 2 syringes and shot it with the intent of taking myself off the planet. No 2 ways about it. I didn't shoot it to get high. I would have put it all in 1 syringe, but you can't get that much heroin in 1 syringe. And I was using big monster 2cc numbers, but I'm not a guru. I'm a guy that just, by the grace of God, got sober and then felt the need to say as often as possible, man, if I could do this, anybody in the world could do this. But we really want everybody to keep it in perspective. Charlie Murphy is never going to let me forget, because he's been here from Jump Street, and Seventh Son isn't going to let me forget. Every single night you go to the comment section, you will never, ever see them miss a night that they don't say, good show, or we enjoyed this or whatever. And you are lucky we stopped by, because we are lucky that you people stop by. And I'll tell you something, Jason is lucky that you people stop by. And I know, Jason, you got to the party late today, and I'm not mad at you, but you should just know that I spent the first 15 minutes of this show talking about you, or at least talking about you, baby girl, because that is hands down one of the most beautiful things that I ever read. And it affected me in ways that I can't explain. But if you read the comment section in the last 4 or 5 days, there's a lot of people that say a lot of really, really great things about me and Mark. And you know what? Thank you from the bottom of our heart. Trust me, we're not being, but I want you to understand this phenomenon, because it's not about us. It really isn't. And I'm not saying that so I come across as a guy that sounds like he's humble. People, if I couldn't do this anymore, and a day will come when I can't do this anymore, I hope that day is 25 or 30 years down the road. But a day will come where I won't be able to do this anymore. But I am of the firm belief that there's no reason that the lifeboat should ever stop. Ever. I think that this should just continue to grow and continue to support people, because the original crew that showed up will be able to carry everything that happens until the end of time. Last night's live feed, which for my money is one of the best live feeds that we've ever done, was great, not because of anything that Mark or I did, but because we were reading the comments section. I mean, line for line. Now, if you didn't know that the comment section was going on, let's say you showed up 5 minutes after the show wrapped up. The live chat's not put back up yet, right? Because YouTube's got to go through their rigmarole. So I don't know what it takes, 4 or 5 hours or something like that. But if you just showed up, boy, you would have thought we were a whole lot smarter than we were, because the things that we were saying were comments written by the crew of the lifeboat. And I was floored. Space Jesus said some things last night. Truth said some things last night. Every single person, and I just cherry picked. I could have read every single one of them. And what makes this channel magic is that. So, boy, if you want to keep saying nice things, we'll take it. But every once in a while, you might just want to tell us we're lucky. You know what I mean? Because we are. And we're not just lucky that people show up, because anyone who has a YouTube channel is lucky as hell if people show up. My brother's the luckiest guy I ever met. Right? He's got, I don't know what he's got, 213,000 or 114,000 people that show up. That's really lucky. But, anyone who's running a channel, Mark's got another channel. It's got 50,000 people. He's a lucky man. We're lucky when people stop by and take a look at the things that we have to talk about. But we here at the Lifeboat are luckier than anybody, because we don't just have people who show up and watch videos. We have people that change people's lives. And if you think I'm kidding, what would have happened if Jason showed up the first time he got here and you guys gave him the cold shoulder and you guys treated him like, we've been here a while. This is our show. Why are you even here? And that crap happens. If you don't think it does, go to another channel and watch all of the stuff that happens. Here, if there's a private joke, people will explain it. If I start saying something about squirrel, people will let you know what's going on, or any of those things, right? If you guys didn't do that, you think he would have come back? He wouldn't have. There's no way in hell he would have. And we know this because we get the emails. Man, I can't believe how inviting. I can't believe how much love there is on that boat. Well, how much of that love do you think Mark and I are pumping out? Because if you think we're creating that, people, holy crap, you want to talk about rich? You think we'd be doing this for the $6.80 this puppy's going to generate a month? We would be selling that skill. We would be renting it out to the highest bidder. If we had the ability to crank out the kind of love that this boat generates, it would be for rent. I promise you it would. For Lamborghini and Bugatti kind of money, my watch collection would improve. But that isn't what it is. We will keep coming here every night.
Yeah, Jason. Jason said something there a minute ago before that one you're getting ready to read, and it's that ripple effect you talked about yesterday that we've been talking about for a while. He's thanking Johnny for sending him over here. That's what we're talking about, guys. Just because Johnny's over there talking about and eating hot stuff doesn't mean that he can't spread that love, because he is. Everything that he does over there, he's doing that. And I try to do the same thing on my channel. And what that is pointing back to our viewers, because that's where that comes from. It's fuel for me and Tommy's tank. I promise you, when we get good compliments and get those kinds of things, it does. It boosts our morale, and it keeps us going, keeps us pushing. But that fuel is from you guys. And it's kind of like this, it's kind of like we're coaches. We're not out there playing the game. You guys are. You guys win the game for us. And you guys get the credit. That's where it should fall. We're just there to facilitate and to share what we know. And that's really where this has come from. And at the same time, we're on that team with you, because we came from there, and we're still there, and we're always going to be there. There's no change in that, and I wouldn't change it. But yeah, I really do think it does go throughout. You can tell, guys, like Tommy just said a few minutes ago, you go to somebody else's channel and you read their chat, it ain't going to take you very long to figure out that probably at least 75% of those channels out there, they're so protective of their channels or whatever, the people in there don't even allow new people to come in and talk. I've been to channels where they got members only chat on all the time. And it's like, why are you doing that? Why are you even on YouTube if you're going to do that? You know what I mean? You're not, I don't see how people connect without that. And for me and Tommy, I think it is a lot about that connection that we have with you guys. And it's something that neither one of us really expected at this level. I know I did.
And what's great? Michelle leaves a comment and says, well, I'm new, but I'm so grateful for all of you. Do you feel new? Honestly, for a hot second, do you feel new? Michelle came in and no one's new on the Lifeboat. I think that really is kind of, and maybe that's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? We really have never, it's pretty special stuff, my brother says. And that's the truth. There's no such thing as a stranger.
Yeah, we've never met a stranger. Yeah.
No, because every single person here has been in the same boat. That's really, it's why we call it the Lifeboat, right? Because everybody here has been in the same place and in the same shoes. One of the things that we talk about, we beat it to death because it really is the basis of everything that happens. The reason that there is a lifeboat, the reason that it's hard to explain and all of that is because if you come to this boat and you have never gotten high, this place will scare the hell out of you, right? What the hell's going on there, right? Everybody loves everybody. But if you come here and you know what it feels like to not be able to get through a day without a chemical, and what the struggle of trying to make someone that's never been there understand. I have loved ones that have watched me through the entire process, right? Of throwing my life away, of going to prison, of getting it back, right? And all of the ups and downs and the trials and tribulations and all of that. And they don't have a clue. Doesn't make them bad people, but they finally have gotten to the point where they will say, well, yeah, I'm never going to understand why you did the things that you did. Well, no, you're not. But there's not one person on the lifeboat that I even have to explain that to. There's not one person on the lifeboat who doesn't understand exactly how you can find yourself standing at the door of a bank and going, I'm going in here and I'm getting this money because I am not going to go without drugs today. I'm going to rob this thing, right? Nobody in their Nobody in their right mind does things like that. So what do? We spend the majority of our sober life trying to explain to people something about you that isn't in its right mind. You can't explain that to someone. The freaking expression explains it, right? Well, I wasn't in my right mind. Well, I don't understand what that means. Well, these people do, right? Everybody here understands what that means. So Mark's right. It's fuel. It really is. When you guys say nice things, man, it carries us through days. But I'm not going to lie to you. The letter that little girl wrote will buy me 6 months. For real. It will buy me 6 months of what other comments would do. Because it's the lifeboat is so much bigger than me. It's so much bigger than Mark. Just like the bus is so much bigger than my brother. And just like all of the people that go over to Mark's channel, there's a positive energy around all of those three channels, right? And you know what? You could throw in Rip and you could throw in, Pyres and all of these other people that just don't allow any negativity at all on their channel. But the difference on the boat is that we all have this thing that the world would like us to explain. And you can show up here and not have to, right? You don't have to try to make anybody here understand. You can come and get right to the issue, because if you try to talk to somebody who has never been addicted to drugs about what you're going through, that not only can they not understand what you're going through, but even if they're the coolest people in the entire world, they think you're either defective or incredibly weak, right? How did you let yourself get to the point where you were robbing banks to get high? I mean, what that really boils down to is you're weak. Because I drank, and I had 3 beers, and then I'd drink again for 4 months. I smoked some pot in college, wasn't a big deal. Tried cocaine once. Why the hell couldn't you just stop? Well, I can't explain to anybody why I just couldn't stop. But it's really nice to be surrounded by a group of people who love me simply because I couldn't. Right? That's the power of what we got going on here. And Michelle, you ain't new. You just got here, but you're not new, because nobody is new on the lifeboat. As soon as you got here, we knew who you were, right? We knew exactly what your story is. The names will change, the locations will change, but boy, do we know your story. We know every single addict that's walking around. We know your story. And we're one of the few places that you can go. I don't know that there's another place. Few hell. Point me to another one where you can show up and say, I got high 5 minutes ago, but what you're saying is starting to affect me. So I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'm probably going to be high when I get here. And nobody is going to go, well, don't show up here high, right? You're never going to get any of that. Or you could come here and say, you know what? I screwed up over the weekend and I got high. And no one's ever going to say, well, we don't want you back. You're not part of the cool club anymore. You got high. Or Fine, you can hang out, but you need to explain to us exactly why it is that you went and got high. What we say is, you make sure you explain to yourself why you got high, right? Evaluate the ever-loving crap out of your relapse. Figure out exactly where you went wrong, at what point you started to backslide, and at what point you decided to pull the trigger on either calling the dope man, going to the liquor store, whatever it is that you do in order to catch your buzz. Figure out exactly what that catalyst was, because if not, we're going to be having this conversation again. But you look at somebody like Brandon. Brandon came here. The most impressive thing to me is not that he's 94 days sober. I'm happy as hell he's 94 days sober. I really am. I think that's awesome. But what blew me away is that he would come here and say, hey guys, I relapsed last night. We can't see him. Nobody could smell his breath. He could have said, I missed last night's live because I had to work. How the hell would we know? But you don't have to lie to anybody on the lifeboat, right? No one's going to judge you, so you don't have to lie to them. And if you don't have to lie, and you don't have to knock the edges off of things, if you don't have to church it up a little bit, right? Because if you try talking to people who don't understand what you're going through, you got to church it up, don't you? You know what I mean? Like if you went out last night and had 15 beers and did a gram of Coke, you might say to them, well, I stumbled a little bit last night. What happened? I drank a couple of beers. You're not going to say to them, a case and a half of beer and 4 grams, because they're going to look at you and go, that's not stumbling. You're weak. If they don't say it out loud, they're thinking it. And that's the truth. I'm not busting on society, you understand? How the hell could you understand this if you haven't been through it? Honestly, how could you possibly understand it if you haven't been through it? Because I'm halfway articulate and I can't explain it. I can't. There are people who will give me credit for it. They'll say, boy, you really explain that stuff well. No, you understand me before I start talking. Bring 5 people here who have never gotten high and let them tell you that I explain addiction beautifully. They're going to go, I don't know what the hell that guy's talking about. For real. Half of the time he doesn't finish sentences because I don't have to, right? I don't have to be polished. You guys know where I'm going. You know what I'm talking about. And you know what I'm talking about because you're in the same boat. That's it. Exactly. It's plain and simple.
Empathizing, empathizing and sympathizing are 2 different things. And, they can understand, but they'll never understand, if that makes any sense. They'll understand what you're saying and comprehend the words that's coming out of your mouth and be able to follow you in a conversation. But as far as feeling what that feels like, no, they won't. It's impossible. It's an impossible thing to accomplish. I've tried, and I know Tommy has. Because you will, and I still try with my family. I think that all of us probably do. But, it's just one of those, it's a hard, trying to get your family especially. And that's why that letter was so, not to mention the innocence of a child. That, oh my God. It was so, like Tommy said, both of us were in tears. I think it's just, yeah. But, again, that wasn't me and Tommy. That was all of us. You can include me and Tommy in that. Because we're here. But it's not. It's there. It's what we're reading here. Yesterday, I almost had to turn slow-mo on in the chat. It literally was moving that fast. And I'm not kidding. It really was. I almost turned it on for a minute and put like a 10-second delay on it or something like that. But that's how fast it was moving. And believe me, that's a great thing. Because that means people are engaged. That means more people are here. That means that people are getting what you guys are talking about in there. Because our show, if you go back and watch it last night, it followed the chat, just like Tommy said. We pivoted on what the chat was talking about. All night. Yeah. We had a topic, and everybody was still kind of, still on the general topic, but the little side roads that you take to go to your destination were different than what we would have expected on a regular night. And that's what happened. And I really truly do think that that's what makes us stand a little different than a lot of other channels, because we're willing to do that, and we have been since the beginning. And that's all credit to you guys for that. We were just able to listen.
And you want a perfect example of things that the rest of the world just quite simply would be baffled by. The girl who said, I'm new here. About a week ago, Michelle was talking in the live feed. And I think it was one of the first times, and she said, "I have tried so hard to avoid this channel. Right? I try as hard as I can to avoid this channel," and I laughed hysterically. Right? And I didn't take any insult in that. If you just wandered onto the lifeboat and you didn't know what was going on, you'd be like, "Well, it's not a very nice thing to say, right?" That is the nicest thing to say, that you could possibly say. It means that the boat is hitting it, right? We're clicking every box. If this place makes you just a little uncomfortable, then we're doing it right? But it wouldn't make anyone else uncomfortable, Michelle. 2,000 people watch this. The 6 people who out of that crew that have all been in the same boat are going to feel the exact same way that you are. But the rest of the country would be like, "Yeah, I don't get it. I don't even know why these people show up." For real. And there was back in the day, I remember seeing a bumper sticker, and it had the Harley Davidson symbol, the wings, and right below it said, "If I had to explain, you wouldn't understand." And that's the boat, right? If I had to explain, you wouldn't understand. And Mark, I mean, you're 100% right. That we don't always feel the need to try to explain ourselves to people. We don't have to, right? We kind of move on. But your family, not only do they demand it, even if they don't mean to, they demand it, and you have to understand them, people. There's nothing wrong with them. You understand? They love you more than anything in the world. All they want to do is understand. And God forbid you the kid, right? If you're their child, society has told parents for a century and a half, if your kid is on drugs, it's your fault. You didn't do something right raising them. And the community of people that try to help people get sober jump on that. What's the first thing when you get there, they say, "Tell me about your childhood." Because they're looking for that thing that they can blame your addiction on. So that what? So that you don't have to have any guilt. You don't have to own your past. If I can blame this on some crappy parenting, well, then we can start working on you getting sober from Jump Street. And we have this thing, right? This thing that caused it. Not you, right? Don't worry about guilt. We're going to get you off the hook.
Yep.
It's your bad parents.
It's
I don't care how bad your parents were. You got to own your past. It really is, that simple. But once again, these are concepts that your family is longing to understand. I think it's in your best interest to say, do yourself a favor for real and tell your parents, right? When they bring up drugs, like I tell my parents, well, mom now, because dad's gone, but I used to say, trust me, it's nothing you did. And the proof of that is I'm not an only child, but I sure as hell am the only one that went to prison. Right? I'm the only one that robbed banks. I'm the only one that stuck needles in his arm. What? They raised me wrong and raised everybody else right? Does that make any sense? Right? None. But no matter how much we tell people, hey, you didn't do anything wrong. Society is going to make every parent believe, and as parents, the second you walk away, people are going to go, well, if that was my kid, I would have taken a belt to him the first time he had ever smoked anything and he wouldn't have done it again. Right? There is a prevailing attitude throughout society on how they view addiction. And it's really lovely to come someplace where you don't have to deal with that. And it's even better that within about 6 minutes of being here, everybody will know your name. Everybody will have a pretty good idea what your story is. And everybody will be happy to lend you an ear, to lend you a little support, to say a prayer for you, to tell you that they're there for you. Right? That's the boat.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of the root of that is that they feel like they have to have an answer, but they don't. They can't have the answer. It's impossible to have that answer if you haven't been through what everybody here has gone through. You can sit there and again play semantics and try to throw some word salad out there, and and you're going to find this a lot in the medical and psychology environment and all that kind of stuff. But that's how they're trained, right? And again, I have to go back that you have to understand as an addict, everybody around you isn't there to hurt you. They really truly do, like Tommy just said, want to understand. And that brings in a certain level of frustration for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Because we as addicts know that no matter what we say, they're never ever going to completely get what we're going through. And I think it's important to remember that too, because that allows us to, I guess, accept some of the things that our loved ones say to us that aren't so kind. They don't mean it to be that way. It's just they're really truly trying to understand. And I'm not saying everybody's situation is the same, but for me and my family, that's been my experience, and that was a learning process for me. I didn't get that right away. I used to get so offended, when my family would say stuff. Well, why do you say that to me for? I'm just trying to do the best I can. But eventually, I mean, it took that one situation with my mom that I've talked about so many times. Don't take your nephew out there with those people. Use that term, those people. And I learned so much just from that 5-second comment on the back end of it after I thought about it before I even jumped to conclusions and started screaming at my mom. That kind of a thing. I understood. And it actually made me feel bad that I thought I was getting ready to get mad. You know what I mean? But I'm telling you, and there's a part of my story I haven't talked about a whole lot. My daughter was 5 when I got clean. So there was a whole lot of stuff that happened before that. And, here's the thing. There's a lot of guilt we all carry around. And only us are going to be able to understand how that affects us and what level that guilt gets to. I don't know. The day I got clean, I left my daughter out here with my she was being taken care of by my teenage son, but I was in the bedroom trying to pass out through withdrawal. And I got my 5-year-old daughter in the room right next to me. I mean, how is that? You see what I'm saying? That is not something that I would have ever thought I would ever have done. But nobody outside of what we go through is going to understand that completely, how somebody could do that. You know what I mean? So
absolutely,
these are all situations, and what you guys go through is going to be, maybe not that exact scenario, but you're going to have stories like that if you stay in addiction long enough. And, and that's why when you guys come in here and start talking to each other and so accepting, that's why it's so powerful, because you guys do know.
You know what? Badger Life says we need to talk about how screwed up the system is when we get out of prison. I think I did a show on that. Yeah. I promise you I will be doing another one in the future, because you're absolutely right. There's no assistance whatsoever. When you get out, you're on your own. If not, you're even worse than on your own. If you're in the halfway house, it was remarkable, how bad that is. And I promise you there's a show that I will do on that, and on that alone, you have my word. DJ says, I still struggle, drink 30 units a day. I've cut down a lot, but this is still too much. DJ, that is not DJ Daddy-O, right? That's not Mr. T. So I don't believe I have ever welcomed you to the lifeboat, DJ. I'm glad that you're here, my brother. And here's the thing. That's the first step. Thank you, Seven Son. That's the first step. When you start to realize it's time to cut back, you've taken a massive step forward. And we got a saying that we use a lot here on the lifeboat. If the day ever comes where you decide that you're ready to put that stuff down and really try to to go through with the entire thing and just say, I'm not going to drink anymore at all, we're going to be here for you every single step of the way. We're going to support you as much as possible. We're going to love you. And if by some chance you make a decision that you're never going to do that, we're going to be here for you every step of the way, and we're going to love you. Not going to judge you or any of that. It's really kind of, what makes the lifeboat unique.
Exactly.
Is that you got to do what's right for you.
Well, case in point, right here. This right here should show you guys that we're on this boat with you. That story I just told, about what's going on and how I just worded all that. Read Mrs. Hermit's comment. It wasn't you doing that, Mark. Okay, so she's telling me, hey, remember that it was the chemical. And that's a very legitimate thing to say at that second. That's what I'm talking about. The knowledge is in the chat. It's right there. It really is. Because,
that's beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I needed to hear that. I mean, honestly, just to be straight up honest with you, because that does show me that, hey, yeah, we kind of forget that kind of stuff.
Read Badger's comment too. He says, we all cringe over things that we have done in the past, even those of us who have never had addiction. You're absolutely right. Yep. Every single person, you're right, cringes from the things they've done in the past. I think where it really kind of separates us, from the air quote normal people is that very oftentimes they don't have to own it the same way we do. As addicts, not only are we kind of expected by society to own it, but if we don't, it's going to crawl back on us, and it's going to be one of those catalysts that sends us back to the bottle or to the bag of dope or whatever the case may be. At least it certainly was that way for me. Once I finally owned up to all of the things that I did in the past, and we don't preach a 12-step program here. We don't tell anybody that what you need to do is confess this to God and one other person. We don't, but we certainly believe that you need to own it. And for me, when I did come on here and tell the entire world, the things that I had done in the past that I wasn't proud of, in fact, every time I come on here and I talk about the things that I'm really not proud of from my past, I don't know that I ever mentioned my suicide attempt on here before. I don't ever want to glorify that crap. It was the worst decision of my life. And by the grace of God, it didn't work, right? Because, I finally came out of the woods, and now in June, right on the 27th of June, which is my mother's birthday, not by design, by the way, but I just happened to have, that was my first day of sobriety, but that's coming up, and that's going to make 7 years. Hold on. Well, good night, everyone. We want to be here for the beginning of the show, but she wanted a lot of bedtime stories tonight, and I was glad to read them. Hey, good stuff, man. Yep. Really good stuff. That's awesome. Where you should be. No one will hold that against you. I promise you that. Keep doing what you're doing, Jason. Keep doing what you're doing, because the ripple effects are changing the world, and they're certainly changing one girl's world, and that is the coolest thing in the whole world. You made my day. You made the next 6 months. I promise you. Great stuff. You have a good night.
And I think, going out and telling people, you don't have to do it on the level that me and Tommy do, right? I mean, it's not like that. But when you choose to do that, first off, it lets a big weight off of you. Because most people, when they figure out that you've been addicted or whatever, you'll get that moment of, hey, just tell me everything you've done. That way we can start right here and move forward. I think Tommy had that same experience with his dad. And, and I had that with my wife and my parents. But it adds, once you do that and you do share, what it does, it adds a layer of accountability that you can't reproduce. I mean, it really does. Because it in a weird way, it almost makes you want to do better. And it really can stop you in your tracks if you just think about that one for a split second right before you grab that thing out of the case, or right before you grab your syringe, or right before you throw those pills in your mouth. I mean, it really is like that. It's a level of accountability that you can't achieve any other way. But it's also freeing at the same time. It's a very odd thing. And once again, only people that have been through what we're going through will understand what I just said. Yeah. And I'm not saying that your family members can't understand what I just said verbally, like I said earlier. They'll understand to the fact, I understood what you were talking about, but they can't understand how that makes us feel. That's the big thing. And it's important. It really is. And that's why we can come here and talk to each other, and we choose our family, like we said so many times. And this is a choice for us. And obviously it's a choice for you guys. And we're happy that you guys are trusting us to do this for everybody. Because you don't have to. People can get high, drunk, or whatever. They don't have to come on here and tell it, just like Tommy said earlier. They don't have to do that, but they do. It speaks volumes for them
It really
and for all of us. So yeah. Anyway,
the guy says, "I'm not broken. I'm just blind." You're not blind, my brother. And you know what? All of us are a little broken. I've never met an addict that was completely put together. And you know what? I don't know that I want to meet an addict that's completely put together. I really don't. You know what I mean? If there's nothing in your life that's broken and you're an addict, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Honestly, there is usually a root cause to addiction. That's been my experience. Now, it's not to say that you can't just start out partying, but what happens is, listen, this is the easiest way that I can put this. We'll use my drug of choice, right? The needle gives you nothing. Nothing. You get nothing from the needle. It takes away. That's what it does. So there's something, it's taken away. And when you can figure out exactly what it is that it's taken away, and you can address that and you can deal with that, then you no longer have to take it away. And it becomes a whole lot easier for that process to work. But make no mistake, whether it's booze or cocaine or heroin or anything else, it gives you nothing. It just takes away. And unfortunately, it takes away a lot of lives. It takes away a lot of relationships. I lost marriages. And you know what? Things happen the way they're supposed to happen, right? You know that. But I could sit here and talk about how horrid both of my ex-wives are. But the truth of the matter is that I doubt I would have divorced either of them had I been sober. The reason that I'm divorced twice is because they got in the way of me getting high. And nothing got in the way of me getting high that I didn't remove from my life. And don't get me wrong either. In both cases, they were very happy to be rid of me, you know, but it's one of those things that, you know, it is what it is. When you come to that realization of this is who I am and this is what is wrong with me, fixing yourself becomes a whole lot easier. If you sit there and you can't figure out for the life of you, you know, what's causing the issue, what the needle is taking away or what the booze is taking away, it becomes far more difficult to make that happen. Broken is a state of mind, no question, it is. And to make that state of mind go away, you got to figure out exactly what causes it. The root cause of that state of mind is really the question.
Michelle said something pretty cool too a minute ago. She said that she was broken, but she's duct taped back together.
There you go. Nothing wrong with duct tape. I'm of the firm belief that there is nothing that you can't duct tape back together. I had a great T-shirt once that said, "If you can't duck it, forget about it."
Gotcha.
All right, people. We have
one more thing, Tommy, real quick.
Sure.
I'm going to be on Emergency Management Associates tomorrow in the evening, sometime before our show here. Okay. It's an earthquake channel. He analyzes earthquakes and stuff, and what's going on in space right now is actually affecting seismic activity. But the reason I've mentioned it to you, it'd be nice to get a few of you guys over there and maybe, you know, talk to people over there and let them know what we're doing here, because I will mention it.
What time are you going to be doing that?
I'm not exactly sure yet. We're setting it up tomorrow afternoon, so it'll be before we come on live here.
Okay.
I'm going to make sure that happens, because he wanted me to come on tonight, and I told him I couldn't because I had some family obligations, and then now this. I don't check out of this unless it's an absolute emergency. So.
Sure. Well, listen, when you figure that out, why don't you blast it up into the onto the lifeboat over on Facebook, so that the majority of the people get a handle on when that is. Yep. Does squirrel like Vegemite? No, but oddly enough, my cat likes orange marmalade. I find that really bizarre, but yeah, I figured toast with orange marmalade on it would be fairly safe, and I came back and squirrel is just, going to town on the, I had left it on the table by the couch. Mark, would you repeat the channel? Because Michelle
what I'm going to do real quick before we cut out of here, I'm getting the link right now. I'm going to post it. I'm going to post it. That way you guys can have the link at least to his latest live stream, and you'll be able to go over there. It's Emergency Management Associates is the channel name, and his name is Ron Tyler. I think his name is actually in the title too. But he's a really good guy. He analyzes earthquakes on a really good way that he does it. He explains things, but he's also a very, very good person, and has been very supportive of everybody here, actually. He's talked to me about this before. He knows what we're doing over here. He's actually came over and watched a few times. So,
oh, very cool.
So just so you know,
very cool. And the guy said it's a great channel. So
yeah, that's there's a link, guys. By the way, it's in there.
And I put a lot of weight in that. He has. Hold on, I'm already subscribed to Ron's channel. Okay, good.
Good. Yeah, I figured
Ron is a sober retired cop. Okay, cool. Very cool.
Yeah, so I figured anybody that come over from my channel might already know who he is because I shout him out a lot. He's one of my moderators, and I feel very fortunate to, not just because he does earthquakes, but because of the man that he is.
Awesome.
I really do feel that way. So anyway, yeah. But yep.
So we are at the top of the hour, people. Sorry, I was just reading. I love reading the comments. In the last couple of weeks, I now actually go back and read the comments, and that's not something that I was hugely into, but because I don't want to do this one all night, so I spend a decent amount of time staring at the camera, right? So recently, I've been going back and reading it because you guys are on fire. I mean, there's no other way to say it. You guys are on fire. You really are. So we will be back tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel. We're going to be talking about that same bat stuff. And this Saturday coming up, do not forget Alan Ballantyne live from Australia. He is not going to mention Vegemite. We let him do that last time. So it's going to be all cool.
The guy also mentioned right there, Marf's channel. He said he found us through Marf. I just want to put that out there because, yes, that's when we got shout out.
Oh yeah, you cannot go wrong with Marf Vogel, people. Yep. If you've never seen Marf Vogel, you really should. Yep. So good night, and people, we will see you tomorrow. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody, and if that person is you, get on it. Right? Time's are ticking. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages,
and this is a Cat in the Basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.